Good evening, everyone, and welcome again to another episode of Couples Talk. And you know I have to do the introduction. I'm here with my wonderful husband, my significant other,
Thank you,
my
sweetheart.
other half, my honey bunches of oats. That's one of my favorite cereals, so you know I had to name him after that. Yes, so this evening again, we're going to a wonderful topic. For the past 2 weeks, we focus on something a little bit more spiritual. I know some persons might be thinking why they went so spiritual, but in everything and in all relationships, everything revolves around God. So we had to bring in something a little bit more about God this evening. But we're wrapping up this particular topic, which is called Keys for a Happy Marriage. This is part 3, the last part of our series in terms of this particular topic. And we've been talking about marriage, and everything is about marriage. And we talk about the highs and lows, the good and bad about marriage. But one thing we must always remember, one of the first institutions God created was marriage. That was a union He created for both man and woman. It is blessed, it is sanctified by God. And now, as we continue to discuss, let us focus on when God has blessed you with someone. This person is someone God gave to you to have a covenant with, a commitment, not a contract, a covenant, a commitment that's supposed to last a lifetime. And many times, based on circumstances, we don't think we should be in this situation long term with a person, but that's because of sin and because of situation that causes hurdles and bumps in this relationship. So as we're going to more discussion about it, I want you to focus on different points, and I hope that you can gain or garner a little lesson from each one of these points we highlighted, and even from the previous topics and points that we highlighted in the other series and things. So let's get deep into our discussion this evening. So our first point is respect each other's personal rights and privacies. You might be wondering, where are they going with this? So first, we're going to start with some text to discuss our topic this evening.
I'll begin. It says here, and this is taken from 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 4 to 7. It says, love suffers long and is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not behave rudely, does not seek its own, does not rejoice in iniquity, believes all things, hope all things, endures all things.
Be kindly affectionate to one another with brotherly love, in honor, giving preference to one another. This is taken from Romans 12:10.
All right. So, when I think of privacy, Charlene, I'm thinking there's a lack of trust somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
If it is that you leave your phone and you can't leave it from your side because I'm going to be picking it up and checking who texts you, who WhatsApp you, there is a trust issue more than anything else. What then would you say to someone that say, well, if I missed all the signs and my spouse cheated, isn't it now my fault that I wasn't being more careful, I wasn't watching for all the signs? What do you say to someone that may say, well, if I'm not doing this, my spouse might cheat?
Well, one thing we need to remember, we can only control our actions. You cannot control anyone else. You're not responsible for their actions. You're responsible for how you respond and how you react. So, in relation to what he just asked, the reason why I highlight that is to remind you that you being the spouse who was cheating on, you played your part in being a good spouse. So let's assume that you are a good spouse, right? You did your part, you did everything. But according to you, you missed signs. What signs did you miss? So you think, okay, you monitor their phone, you monitor their phone calls, you monitor their emails, you monitor tech, you monitor where they go, that you're going to stop them from cheating? No, the cheater is just going to get more creative, because the only way a cheater will stop cheating is if there's remorse. And if there's no remorse to stop cheating, why would I stop cheating because you caught me? No, I'll just be more creative in terms of cheating. So what you need to realize is that your action doesn't determine whether this person will stop cheat or continue to cheat. What you need to focus on is being a good steward of Christ in terms of who you are and how you represent yourself. You cannot control their behavior. As weird as that sounds, you think that monitoring them or being paranoid is going to stop them? No, it's not. It's going to just make things more creative, different and leave you more depressed because now you're paranoid following them for every single incident.
So I guess what we're saying there is, as we talking again, the topic here is respect each other's personal rights and privacies. It makes no sense that you become paranoid and get all caught up with your spouse's personal space in a habit or a desire to stop. You're only making a situation worse twice. Assuming there isn't an issue, and then the person recognizes that you are prying, you're always then you create a problem when there wasn't even a problem. So it requires, for you to really experience true happiness, you need a level of confidence and trust in each other. And I think what happens here is a lot of time the issue is more with you, the person that is not given the privacy, than the other person. If you recognize that I am valuable and I am going to be the person that I needs to be, if that person do something that is not in line with what you agree to, it's their loss. And you got to just accept and recognize that you are valuable and you need to be, you would treat someone the way you want to be treated. If you want someone to give you that space and privacy, you also need to give that person. That is a God-given right. Each of us deserves that privacy to do what we want to do. We're not saying if you're seeing a level of risk, for example, women may pick up things men don't. My wife may notice someone is prying and I ignore the signs. That's different. And you give your spouse the benefit of the doubt. Then use an appropriate time to say, honey, I think that person has a crush on you, or so you recognize this, and bring it to their attention. And those things have happened that after Charlene and I would have alerted me that, hey, I think that person's attracted to you. It now alerted me something I totally missed. Now she could have thought, well, oh, you see the person flirting with you and you're just enjoying it. Sometimes the person was just oblivious to it. So that's the time that you need to talk, share with each other that you're noticing things, but give each other that personal space. The second thing is be clean, modest, orderly, dutiful. The first three, most persons are okay with. As soon as we start hearing things like dutiful and so forth, women already start getting words like slave and so on. But
we have a right to,
let's
because
see
you
what
all behave as if women are slaves and have a right to do this thing.
But this is both ways. So I want us to look that this is applicable both ways. And this is how we're going to, let's look at what the Bible says. The Bible says, in like manner also, that the woman adorn themselves in a modest apparel, right? And this comes about being clean and being modest. And be clean. Isaiah just keeps it very simple. Isaiah 52:11 just says, be clean. It's such a blessing with each other that we can be in each other's space. You get home from work, you're sweaty, you're so forth. Take a nice bath, freshen up for each other, and so that you could really get close and get into each other's space and really enjoy that. It goes on to say, let all things be done decently and in order, which is 1 Corinthians 14.
I just want to highlight for the woman, it does not mean to dress like a granny and say how we said, because modesty, people assume modesty means granny. No, that's not what it means. You can dress sexy for your husband. It just means that everybody don't need to see all the parts that God consider private parts.
And that's why you should be mindful of people just turning up unannounced at your home, especially.
Yeah, don't turn up unannounced at my home.
You should be comfortable in your space. But as you go out, you want to be mindful in terms of, especially if you're not going out together, especially. So another point there is, if anyone does not provide for his own, especially for those in his household, he is denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. And this is speaking especially to men. We are not to be lazy. God expects us to provide for a family. And we're not talking about a person that is laid off and you're going through a tough time. But this is the time when, you're going to tell yourself, well, I can't do certain job. So I'm gonna wait until the job that I feel is to my standards. That's the situation that I'm going to go out and do, and that happens. And I will say I personally experienced this in my journey. Moving to a new location, there weren't necessarily jobs in your field, and I had to go out and do construction. It took some getting used to, but the reality is, God has told me as a man that I should provide for my family. That's not to say my spouse, if choose to work or so forth, that's not to say that, but I take it as a personal responsibility that God has told me to provide for my family. So that if my wife choose to work, then I should be able to encourage that and so on. But it must not be that I am home relaxing and just being lazy. God is saying that is not something that as a man we should be practicing. It says laziness, disorder, dirt, and slovenliness are the devil's weapon to destroy your respect and affection for one another, and thus ruin your marriage. All right. You could go, Charlene, this third one.
Determine determined to speak softly and kindly. My mother calls me the whisperer. I think everyone calls me the whisperer. I am not a shouter. I will not say what I sound like when I shout, because then it might sound very prejudiced and they might accuse me of other things. But I cannot shout for the life of me. It is terrible. So they always call me the whisperer. So I think I already fell into the category of speaking softly. Kindly, yes. I think my voice is too squeaky to sound anything other than kindly. That's just my own interpretation. A soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Proverbs 15:1. I would repeat that over and over and over when someone is upset to me. Yes, because I sometimes have to take a deep breath, because some people, they allow the devil to possess them and then they come towards you. Live joyfully with the wife whom you love. See, he's smiling. Living joyfully with the wife whom you love. Ecclesiastes 9:9. When I became a man, I put away childish things. 1 Corinthians 13:11. One of the things we fail to realize is that when you're a child, you behave like a child. When you become an adult, you behave like an adult. Things that you would have done like as a child are not things you're supposed to practice as an adult. And many of us misconstrue these behavior, carry on these behavior as adults, and don't understand why we're treated in a particular way. You're going to the workplace expecting people to give you unrealistic attention. I've even heard stories where a woman said she's in the workplace and a colleague keep reporting her because she just won't talk to the colleague. We're not friends. Why won't you talk to me when I want to talk to you? Or I just want to talk to you. Weird conversations. So because she's not talking to her and having weird conversation, she reported her. You're not a child. They don't need all that attention. Not everybody in the workplace is going to be a friend. Once they have respect for each other, they're going to be fine. People need to understand that concept. Yes, I know.
Do we think there is any time for you to raise your voice at each other? Let us know in the comment. Do you think there is a time for us to be able to raise our voice on each other? But so while we answer there,
let them answer.
Yeah, tell us in the comment. Is there a time that is okay for you to raise your voice at your spouse? The point says, force yourself to speak softly and kindly to your spouse. Silence when one is attacked is often the best method to cool wrath. Now, I want to also set a premise here. There are times that your silence could be even worse than your angry tone. And some persons may think, well, okay, you know what? You don't want me to say anything, so then I can just be silent and I'll give you the silent treatment. And that also could be just as bad. But we're saying there are times that you may need to gather your thoughts, you may need to cool down and so forth. And that's good. Because when you say something that you really didn't mean, you've already said it, and the person forever now have to hear that. And it may take you longer to actually heal the damage that you've done by raising your voice at someone and being in a very threatening tone. You lose a lot of the trust that you have with each other. So decisions made, especially when you're angry, when you're tired or discouraged, is normally very unreliable. So it's late at night is not a very good time to have a very emotional, important decision. It might be best to wait until in the morning when you're both cool, you had a good night's rest, and maybe that would be a good time for you to discuss very sensitive things that are very emotional or heated. That's the best. But irrespective of what, we need to be very intentional to speak softly and loving to each other. All right. Fourth one is be
Be
reasonable
reasonable
in
in
money
money
matters.
matters. Yes. Love does not envy, does not behave rudely, does not seek its own. 1 Corinthians 13:4 and 5. God loves a cheerful giver. 2 Corinthians 9:7. What's the next text?
Right.
That's
So
it?
so those are the text reference here. I There is few things that creates as much issues in a marriage like money. It's either we don't have enough, it's either you're spending what you have, or your one is being too stingy. What have been the things you've seen over the years that has really helped us to not allow money to separate us? Well, what are some of the things you've seen that has really helped?
One of the things we did was actually budgeting. When we discussed finances and we brought what we had together and we laid all on the table, even laid our expenses or future plans, what it is we want to do, that actually takes away all the issues of my money, your money, and that back and forth fight. It allowed us to just focus on what it is we have to deal with monthly and what are our future plans. It takes some work, it takes trust, because sometimes, men, they feel so, what's the word we think? Ego feels a little crushed when they have to lay it all on the table for the money. We women love money, so we don't feel any much issue. But I know what some persons have issues with is that if I'm working for my money, why it is I have to discuss money with my spouse. But remember, when you made those vows, it's two becoming one. So everything now is ours. There's no yours, there's no mine. So we all have to put it together and discuss our finances together. Trust me, it actually makes life easier, because you see, when it is you decide on doing it together, you know what it is, expenses are, what savings are. Life becomes so much easier and so smoother. You don't even have much hiccups during the month, because you already know what your plans are at the beginning of each month. And each person doesn't become wary about what are you hiding, what am I hiding, what's our financing. And merging finances doesn't mean that you're losing your money in. It just means that you're both better planning for each other. I remember one of my relatives told me that she wished she and her husband had done that, because it would have made things easier for them in terms of financial planning. And it's interesting to hear that, because she was complimenting us in terms of how we were dealing with our finances. And it really made me smile, thinking, sometimes you think you're younger than them, so they would do everything right. But every marriage has its missteps and their hiccups. But we can all learn from each other in terms of guiding our thoughts. And one of the things also mentioned too is that if you're not working as a spouse, especially as a wife, the man is supposed to provide. I've heard cases where women not working and the husband doesn't think he needs to give you more than maybe buy food because you don't need any money, you're not working. But he needs to realize he took an oath to provide for you. He needs to make sure that everything is doing well in the home and for his wife. Because if your wife is not happy, you're going to have more problems.
Yeah, and this is something that I recognize that as your spouse deserves to have a sense of value in herself. And if she has to come to you and always asking you, honey, can I buy this? Honey, can I buy that? It's even diminishing her value even more. So if one spouse is working and the other is not working, in both cases, and we do this in our budget, each person should have an allotted amount of funds that they don't necessarily need to be accountable to each other for that. But it's sometimes it might be the same amount, it might be a little different. But the reality is each person should have a certain amount of funds that they don't have to be accountable. Obviously, it should not be the excessive funds there. It should be on the smaller side, because together you should be planning your goals. We always say money will have an issue if you don't have goals together. If you intend to have certain things and your goals are big, you don't waste your money. Your money should be a tool that you're working with together. And that's the thing, one of the things I've learned. And it took me a while. In the early part of our career, I was probably working for twice as much as I'm working for today. And during that time, I had little to no savings. While today, with less, and the fact that we started budgeting together and started planning our future together, and we started establishing that these are the things we want to accomplish, today I've actually seen us be able to save more. We're able to plan better. We're able to still do certain things. We're still able to travel and things like that. But because we have intentional goals and we're ensuring that money is not something that we're seeing as an obstacle, but it's really a tool that we should use to be able to do that together. So it says you should cheerfully, it should be a cheerfully provide instead of grudgingly release on the protest. It should be a discussion that you're having together. And as much as possible, anything that is above a certain amount, you should be discussing. That's just the reality. All right. So the last point we want to share as it relates to keys to a happy marriage is talk things over and counsel together freely. All right. Go ahead, Charlotte.
Love suffers long and is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not parade itself, is not puffed up. 1 Corinthians 13:4 and 5. He who disdains instruction despises his own soul. Proverbs 15:32.
And our last Bible reference for this evening, it says, do you see a man wise in his own eyes? There is hope for a fool than for him. And this is taken from Proverbs chapter 26, verse 12. The reality is we don't know everything. And there are persons that may see things that you're not seeing. But it's still saying here to be wise even in the counsel that you're taking in. I think we even spoke earlier about even guarding your marriage. So there's a balance here. But there are times that it may be a good practice to surround yourself with persons that have good marriages. You know, if you see someone that have a very happy marriage, that might be a good friend or someone that you could kind of draw close to kind of understand what is it that they've been doing that makes the difference, and that you could take something from it to make your own. What about you, Sean?
You have to also remember that one of the things they mentioned here is talking about counsel together. They actually talk more about talking with each other, because many times we fail to communicate in marriage. We don't talk. We just relate. But we really need to talk. We really need to have deep, healthy communication with each other. See, when you do that, things flow easier. It's easier to deal with different issues in a marriage, easier to deal with the finances, it's easy to deal with the privacy, all those different aspects of it. So communicate, talk, counsel, get the extra help, the support, because we're not an island. We can't always do this alone. So once we have support from other persons, it can even help to strengthen our relationship as well.
Yeah, I love that point. It's so important for us to get vulnerable with each other. If you're not able to draw close to the person that you're with and to share the challenges that you're facing, you know, you're stressed and you're worried either about a job, about something that's taking place in your life that you're not sure what to do and how to really. It makes no sense that you try to fix this all in your head and you tell yourself, well, when I figure it out, maybe I'll talk to you. No, you could gain a lot of insight by bouncing those ideas off of each other, and you may gain certain feedback that you might not have thought if you try to fix it all in your head. So I think it's very important for us to be able to share some of those to really make sure that we got there. So I mean, these are the keys that
Oh, that's fun.
we're looking at.
Few things will strengthen your marriage more than counseling together on all major decisions. Talking things over together will avoid many blunders that can ruin your marriage.
So, is there any of the keys that have worked for you that we might have missed out? Tell us in the comments. I mean, what are some of the things that have been working for you in your relationship that has really made the difference? So, the things we mentioned this evening, we said the first one was respect each other's personal rights and privacies.
Be clean, modest, orderly, and dutiful.
Number three was determined to speak softly and kindly.
Be reasonable in money matters.
And lastly, talk things over and counsel together. So, again, if there's something that we missed, remember, let us know in the comments, as well as share what you thought of these three keys. Well, the three parts of the keys to happy marriage. If you missed any of the other two, you could always go back to our channel and view the other parts so that you could really get there. Any closing thoughts?
Just remember that marriage is a journey, it's not a destination. So every day, every month, every moment, you're going to have some different experiences, ups, downs, like a roller coaster. Just embrace it, just enjoy it, and give it all to God. Turn to God and let Him direct you in terms of how it is you're going to go in your marriage. Don't allow self to control the decisions. And also remember, you can only change yourself, you can only control you. And if it is that you see behaviors in your partner that you think you don't like, pray for yourself and pray for your partner and let God intervene and deal with the situation.
I like that. I like that point more so. And there was a point that was shared, especially as it relates to respecting each other. It says confidence and trust in one another is essential for happiness. So trust each other and trust God that He's going to do what it needs to be done so that you could really have a happy marriage. He brought you together and He has the power to keep you even through the ups and downs. All right. So here are the keys that we wanted to share for a happy marriage. Stay safe and let's talk to each other.
And don't forget to share the video, like and subscribe, and continue to follow us and even share any points or any suggestions of any topics that you would like us to do a video on. So have a good evening. Bye, everyone.